Welcome to The Shed Wireless, a podcast for shedders, produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association and hosted by John Paul Young.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
Hello and welcome to the Shed Wireless podcast, made in Australia and distributed all over the world for the love of shedding. Did you know that you can now subscribe via email to be notified as soon as the next episode of the Wireless podcast is released? Well, all you got to do is head to the Shed Wireless page on our website and look for the red subscribe button. Red buttons, eh? Marty is in Queensland today learning about a wave machine at the Gladstone Men's Shed for Shedder in the Spotlight. Our special guest today is Dr. Nick Carr from Dying with Dignity Victoria, who is going to talk to us about voluntary assisted dying. Now, every state has passed laws to allow this to be a choice for those in need. We're going to find out which is better, caravans or motorhomes for travelling in On the Road. In On the Pulse, Stuart is talking to Christine Batey from Oz Harvest about the NEST, N-E-S-T program. And Rip Woodchip is talking about how challenging all that new technology can be. And believe me, I know. Okay, let's get cracking.
You're listening to The Shed Wireless with my good friend, John Paul Young. It's a podcast for shedders. Across Australia and around the world, get ready to shed.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
First up today is our partnership and engagement coordinator with the Shedders in the Spotlight. Where are you today, Marty?
Thanks, JPY. We're here for On the Tools today, and I'm in Gladstone, muggy old Gladstone. They've put it on for me, the humidity up here, in central Queensland. And I was up at the Gladstone shed and I was told of this little project, and I just had to come down and check this thing out today. I thought this is going to be perfect for our podcast. So without further ado, I'm not going to say too much now, but it involves, I'm here at the Central Queensland University looking at this structure, and it's hard to describe. I'm going to have to take plenty of photos and plenty of video of this. But I'm going to interview young Jack Greenshields, and he is a PhD student doing his PhD here at Central Queensland University in marine biology sort of field or something like that. Jack Greenshields, isn't it? Yeah?
Jack Greenshields, yes.
Hi. So tell me, mate, what are you studying and what are you doing here?
So I'm doing my PhD on microplastics and specifically how they get trapped in seagrass and mangrove ecosystems and the associated health effects.
Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah, super simple, yeah.
Super simple. And you have engaged the Men's Shed for support with this little project, because what have we got over here, mate?
So they graciously made me a wave machine. So one of the questions of my PhD is, do microplastics get trapped in seagrass ecosystems in more so than in, say, beaches? And I needed a wave machine to sort of experiment on that. And yeah, that's what they've done for me.
And they've done it in spades. This thing is a work of art. Now, we are in an area that is highly populated by ex-engineers, which is lucky for you because the Gladstone Men's Shed is a wealth of knowledge and talent, isn't it, mate? How did you come across the guys in the Men's Shed?
Well, they had an event on at the university, and I'd been from England. I didn't know anything about Men's Shed, like the concept of it. And I was just speaking to a colleague at work saying that I needed a wave machine. I had no idea how I was going to make one. And they said, oh, the Men's Shed are in town. Why don't you go and speak to them? And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And I met Malcolm and it all span off from there.
Oh, my God. You hit the jackpot that day, didn't you?
Very lucky.
Yeah. Mate, so let's pop over. Can you tell me a little bit about what this machine is? It's going to be so hard to describe over the radio. That's why I'll put video and things on our YouTube. But explain to me what you need and what it does. We've got 6 tanks here with our paddles going up and down here, whatever. But what did this need to do and what is it? Like, what have we got here?
So you've got 6 tanks, and each of them have a sort of slope that goes upwards to generate a wave. There's a pendulum mechanism with a sort of wedge shape that goes up and down, which creates the wave onto a sort of well of sediment where I'm putting my different treatments, seagrass, mangroves, that kind of thing. And also there's these pumps that spin around to create a tidal cycle. So the water goes up and down within the tank to create different kind of waves to splash down onto the sediment. And yeah, there's plastics mixing around in there. And that's about it, yeah.
So each tanks are going, they're all sort of making waves at the same rate, are they? Or
Yeah. So really important for like science is you need something called replicates. So you need identical things again and again and again to make sure that things are statistically significant and not just due to chance. So you need the same thing replicated, which is why I've got 6 identical tanks doing the exact same thing. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And what, so I'm just looking inside here. So we've got the water, you've got the plastic sitting there. So how are you measuring? Like, what's going on here?
So you've got, the water goes up and down. You've got the plunger making the waves on this sediment well here. You can see the plastics moving around. And if I move this, you can sort of see a core here. So at the end of the experiment, I'm going to take this core out of the sediment, and then I'll be looking at the plastics, where they get trapped, how deep down they go, that kind of thing. And there'll be different kinds of sediment in these wells. Like seagrass sediment, mangrove sediment, beach sediment, because they're all different sizes, weights, types, and yeah.
So, mate, what were you going to do? How were you ever going to pull this off without the help from the men's shed?
Simple answer, I wasn't. I absolutely wasn't. I had an idea, and it kind of ran away from me, and what I needed for the experiment, I found out quickly, was a lot more bigger than my capabilities. So yeah, I'm really glad that the men's shed are here and that I could reach out to them and that they've been so helpful.
Brilliant. All right, I'm gonna steer away from it. I want to talk to Malcolm. So Malcolm and Daryl, can we get Daryl over here? So I've got Daryl and Malcolm. These guys are the brains behind this machine. So Malcolm, these guys are from the Gladstone men's shed, who I met yesterday. Absolute geniuses. I'm not worthy, mate. So Malcolm, what's your background?
I'm a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
I've spent most of my working life in the power generation industry.
Yep.
And
Daryl, yourself?
So I've got mostly electrical. I have an electrician's ticket, but I also upgraded that with some control system tertiary education, and then I did a degree in computer in information technology.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you know your stuff. You know your shit. Yeah, good on you. Good. So it was a bit of serendipity there that you guys were about on the day that young Jackie seemed to be looking for someone to build this thing. So how did that come about from your point of view?
Well, I'm not really sure. I wasn't here. I wasn't at the shed at the time.
Was it you now?
yes, I was asked to contact Jack, which I did, and we have the ability to design complex things, but
That goes without saying, mate.
no, but when it involves a whole lot of complex control systems and things like that, I call on Daryl to solve all those problems, and which he has.
Yeah. So was there any, when you were told about this project, when Jack came to you with this project, was there any hesitation? It's like, oh, yeah, we can do that. No, not a problem.
Not really, no. And I think Jack would actually agree. He wasn't really sure what he wanted either, which is fairly normal for these sort of projects. You have this general concept of what you want it to do, but the actual how it would actually come together, you don't really have that information at that point.
Yeah.
So I guess that's our job, to sort of put it together and sort of say, ask the right questions. Do you need this? Do you need that? So ask the question, do you need tides? Yes. Okay. So that's
Unbelievable. So how long has this been from woe to go, or go to woe? How long did this take to put together, like the planning and all that sort of thing?
don't ask.
Really? Wow.
It'd be, it's more than that. I think it's probably been getting on for 18 months when we first started talking about it.
Wow. Because this is no little project for a shed, a men's shed. This is huge.
It's taken us a few iterations to get some of the parts working. So we have to actually work out how much water's in the tanks to be able to generate tides, and the transducers to read the levels. We've gone through about 4 different types until we've come upon one that is actually reliable. So we've had some that have been affected by the moisture. We've had some that are affected by the way that the pumps work and the way that the filtering works. And yeah, so it's taken quite a few iterations.
Did you guys have anything to go off before you started this? Was there like, oh, let's YouTube wave tank. Let's see what we can find. If someone's done this before, we'll just copy their plan?
No.
Nothing like that. So this is from scratch. Because this is an engineering masterpiece, isn't it? You must be proud.
Oh, yeah. And no.
Why?
Oh, no, it's just, landing on the right spot took us
You're
so
humble.
long.
You're
Yeah.
The complication for us was budget. So Jack had very limited funds.
Yeah.
And
What, the university didn't throw money at you, bucket loads of money?
not that we noticed. They're probably they're probably holding back on that.
Yeah, right.
But as a result, we had to scrounge around to find materials that were available to us at low cost or no cost. So all the timber in the tanks, that's all recycled, and so we had to specially treat it to waterproof it, and there's been issues there as well. But we reckon we're out of that now.
So, okay, how much did it cost all up to build this thing?
You'd know.
I've still got to pay you some of it.
It's about four and a half or 5,000.
And what? Just in materials, basically. No labour. Yeah. Wow. Mate, Jack, you hit the jackpot, bro. You hit the jackpot finding these guys. Unbelievable. So, because I would hate to think what this thing, Jack, would have been worth to have produced some of that. That is just,
Yeah, it would have been impossible for me if they actually, cost what it actually has costed in labour as well as materials that they've managed to find for me. So yeah, I'm really grateful.
Well, mate, there's not too much more. Like, this thing has to be seen to be believed. I mean, we're on a podcast here, but I'm going to have to take a whole lot of footage. We'll do some filming and stuff, I think, because this thing's got to be seen to believe. Like, this dashboard here, who put this? Is this you? Was it Darryl that put this together?
So they're controllers. There's a pump for each tank, and the pump pumps water out of the tank into a bucket for the tide going down, and out of the bucket and into the tank for the tide going up. And so it measures the tide level from measures the volume of water in the tanks with strain gauges, which measure the weight. And so those weights are transmitted back to the controllers that work out what the set point for the tides are and pump the water up and down to meet the set point.
Mate, when you explain it like that, I think I could have had a crack at this myself. Sounds pretty easy when you put it like that, You just got to break it down into small bits, don't you, really? Yeah, that's right. Come on, you're basically replicating tides and waves and things no challenge at all, really. Incredible. I think I've seen it all now. Like I said, I've go to many sheds, I see many amazing things, but mate, this is absolutely incredible. This is an engineering masterpiece. This is so.
Yeah, the added complication for this was the fact that the sediment is in the tank, but the microplastics are there as well, and so all this had to work without interfering with Jack's experiment. So the tide had to go in and out, but all the mud and sediment had to stay in the tank. So that's given us quite a few headaches, but we think we're out of that as well.
So a bit of time in perfecting, and there must have been tweaking galore as you went along, but mate, it's done now and it's just amazing. So when are you expecting to get some results from your studies here, mate?
Probably later this year, around sort of September, October time is when I'm looking to collate all my data together and come up with something that actually makes sense. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you guys. This is this is absolutely incredible, and I appreciate the time down here. You've got a beautiful spot down here on the water in the old fish co-op, is it? Yeah. And mate, this is an absolute marvel and a real credit to all of you for putting your heads together and nutting this one out. And good luck with the PhD, mate. Well done.
Thanks so much.
Good. Thanks, gentlemen. Been an absolute honour and a pleasure meeting you guys. And go to the Gladstone shed, the engineering boys.
Could I just add as a parting comment that a lot of the material that's gone into this has been donated by shed members. So Things been on shelves at home have been brought out and donated towards this project. So there's a lot of interest at the shed in how this project works.
Team effort, eh? Team effort. I was speaking now with some of the other boys down at the shed saying they help with the painting and the coating and all that sort of stuff. So good team effort. Fantastic shed. Anyone that's in the Gladstone area, drop in and see the boys at the Gladstone men's shed because it is, it's up there. Good on you, lads. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll catch up. Back to you, JP.
Wow, Marty, that does sound like it has to be seen to be believed. So head on over to the Australian Men's Shed Association Facebook page or website to see photos and videos of what the men at Gladstone Shed made. We acknowledge the Balai, Gureng, and the Tabalang Bunda peoples, the traditional custodians of the land on which the members of the Gladstone Men's Shed meet. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Next up, it's over to you, Stuart, with our special guest for today.
Thanks, JPY, and g'day, everybody. I'm Stuart Torrance, Shed Development Coordinator, Wellbeing and Health. Not long ago, we did a series on end-of-life issues on the Pulse segment of the Shed Wireless. We spoke about advanced care planning, and we even had a chat with a funeral director and found out all sorts of weird and wonderful things about the funeral industry. Not long after, I was at an event down in Victoria and a shedder called Ken approached me and he said he'd enjoyed the podcast, but he felt that we'd missed an important part of the conversation. Voluntary assisted dying is something that has been going through legislation, changes in Parliament over the last few years. And I've been watching a documentary about it and watched some interesting... Sorry, I'll restart that again. I watched a documentary about it and knew some states had passed legislation making it legal, but to be honest, that's about as much as I knew. What I've found out since is that every state has now passed this legislation. For some, this conversation is going one step too far. For others, it's right that we should have this availability to everyone. To help us discuss this topic, we've invited Dr. Nick Carr from Dying with Dignity to the Shed Wireless. Welcome to the Shed Wireless, Dr. Nick Carr.
Well, thank you, Stuart, and thank you to your shedder, Ken, for bringing this very important topic up.
Absolutely, and we love actually getting suggestions from shedders on any subject that they might want to hear about, and we'll find the professional to talk about it. Nick, I, like many others, are struggling between getting our heads around the subject, as well as feeling compassionate about our response, about what other peoples are up against in their end-of-life challenges. I think my first question needs to be, can you explain to us voluntary assisted dying?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the three words say it all, because it is voluntary. It's people who are dying anyway, who may want some assistance towards the end. Mm-hmm. And this is only for people who are at the end of their lives. They have diseases where they have been told by their doctors, there is no more treatment. You are not going to recover from this. Mm-hmm. And whether it's a cancer, whether it's a neurological disorder, heart disease, whatever it is, we've come to the end of the line. So mm-hmm. people only come to voluntary assisted dying when they know that death is an inevitable consequence in the near future. All we're doing with voluntary assisted dying is giving them a bit of choice about how that end comes, where and when it comes, and the manner of their dying.
Now, I believe in some circumstances, the end of life is brought about and has been brought about by similar methods all the way through history. We have our loved ones right at the brink, and a little push is given. Am I right?
Absolutely right. And the difference there, of course, that was in the doctors or the other health professionals' control. It was their choice about what they did. They might have been begged by a person to do it, but it was up to the doctor to choose whether they did or not. Voluntary assisted dying is always in the control of the person who matters most here, which is the patient, not the doctor.
Sensational. Okay, so I've done a lot, or spent a lot of time speaking about suicide awareness, risk reduction, and assistance for those that are affected by suicide. But this isn't suicide per se. As you've said, they're already dying, and they've come to that point in their life that they need to call it a day rather than suffer. Is that right?
This is an absolutely crucial point, and the difference between suicide and voluntary assisted dying can be summed up by saying that suicide is a choice between life and death. Voluntary assisted dying is simply a choice about how I'm going to die. And there have been many articles written by very learned people about why there is no connection between suicide, as we mostly understand it, in younger people or people who are unwell with psychiatric illness, and voluntary assisted dying. And the sorts of things that make the difference is that suicide is associated usually with a psychiatric illness. It's usually something which people do alone. It's not something which they're supported in. It's not something which other family members or carers wish for the person. And the curious thing about suicide is when it fails, most people who have failed are subsequently glad that they didn't succeed. And then finally, with suicide, when someone does die by suicide, the effects on family and loved ones is catastrophic. And these are all completely different from the experience of voluntary assisted dying, which is supported by family and friends. It's done in a peaceful and gentle manner. And it's something which we know now from the research. Bereavement after voluntary assisted dying is at least as good or better than death in any other circumstance, certainly better than when someone dies by suicide.
Okay, so I've worked for many a year in the dementia field, and I suppose one of the obvious major objections would be the abusive process, pushing vulnerable people into undertaking this voluntary assisted dying. What is the process for someone wanting to investigate this further?
Yeah, and that's a scared thing that's often put out by the opponents to voluntary assisted dying. It's actually not the case at all. It's really impossible to coerce someone who has their right mind into making this choice. You mentioned dementia. Sadly, for many people with dementia, voluntary assisted dying is not an option because part of the criteria for voluntary assisted dying is you have to have the capacity, the mental ability to make the decision all the way through the process, which of course is often lost in dementia. But what we found is that coercion, the idea that families are sort of dragging Granny off to get her bumped off, is simply not happening. Apart from anything, Granny has to be the one saying, I want this. The fact that there's a family member there, we look for coercion all the time. We're taught how to do that. And we talk about this a lot. Funnily enough, coercion mostly is the other way around. Granny's there saying, listen, I want to do this. And the kids or the grandkids are saying, but we don't want you to. They're trying to stop them doing it because they don't want Granny to die. So it's a very carefully regulated system. And in real life, what we have found in our jurisdictions and overseas research is that coercion is really vanishingly unlikely.
Okay, so that's good to know that the vulnerable within our community are sort of taken into account and looked after in regards to the process. But Nick, what are the end-of-life alternatives? Obviously going all the way, maybe through pain, discomfort and the like. What other alternatives are there to end-of-life options?
So assuming that we don't have a sudden event like a heart attack or stroke, which polishes us off without any warning, which is actually a really good way to go, get towards the end of your life, have something quick and nice, get it over and done with, well done. But for many of us, it's not like that. After we're suffering from a heart disease or some nasty malignancy, maybe a neurological disorder, and we know things are not great, palliative care is the crucial element here. And palliative care is amazing. Good palliative care is really, really effective for things like pain, for nausea, physical symptoms, but can't always help with all of those symptoms and often can't help with what we call the existential angst of coming towards the end of someone's life. And what voluntary assisted dying gives people is a little bit of control back about the end. I don't have to worry, am I going to die choking or unable to breathe or something horrible in the middle of the night? I can choose my time and place. I can take this medication. And I can tell you what, I've been there for numbers of voluntary assisted dying deaths, and they are always peaceful and curiously beautiful.
Nice. Okay, so voluntary assisted dying, as I believe, is now available in every state. If someone wanted to go there, if someone wanted to seek someone out about doing that, where would they start? Where would they go for information?
Okay, so start with your doctor, because particularly in Victoria, the doctor's not allowed to tell you of the option. You have to actually approach a medical practitioner. So your doctor should be able to give you information. There are doctors who are conscientious objectors, and if that's your doctor, well, either go to someone else, or you can go online, because there's plenty of information through government websites, so local government in every state, because you're right, it's now available in every state, and just recently, a few months ago, a couple of weeks ago rather, ACT. So the only place in Australia that doesn't yet have it is Northern Territory. So this legislation is now available to virtually all Australians, and there's information galore. Here in Victoria, as in other states, we have a wonderful what are called navigator service, and they will guide people who don't know what to do. You get in touch with them, easy to find, a quick search and you'll find them, and they will help people, hold their hands, guide them through the process.
So, Dr. Nick, maybe a macabre question. Has this been taken up much since its inception?
Yeah, the idea that suddenly we were going to be bumping people off left, right and centre was complete nonsense when it was raised, and has turned out to be the case. Fewer than 1% of all deaths are through voluntary assisted dying. So it only applies to a very small number of people. But for that group of people who do use it, what we found universally is that it's a huge comfort to get back a little bit of control at this horrible time at the end of their lives.
Dr. Nick Carr, like I said at the beginning, this is for some people walking a very fine line, and there are obviously conscientious objectors, and there are those of us that are really, our heart goes out to people in these circumstances, and we wish them every best in every circumstances. Dr. Nick Carr, thank you very much for appearing on the show with us today and walking us through voluntary assisted dying. I'm sure if people wanted to look up more information, they could go to the Dying with Dignity website in their state.
We have heaps of information on there, and it's all really good.
Fantastic. Dr. Nick Carr, thank you very much for sharing with us. Back to you, JPY.
Thanks for that, Stuart. It sure is a difficult but important topic. If this has brought up anything upsetting for anyone listening, please call the Crisis Support Service Lifeline on 131 1114 or Men's Line on 1300 78 999 78.
On the road, on the Shed Wireless.
Well, today I'm here with Derek Bullock, who is an active member of the Camper Van and Motorhome Club of Australia, the largest RV club in Australia. All right, we're back on the road, eh?
Yes.
Now, you're a member of the Camper Van and Motorhome Club of Australia, the largest RV club in Australia. And you and your wife, Maggie, now retired, and you've been travelling quite a bit around Australia in your motorhome. Now, you've had caravans in the past. What's the difference between, this motorhome and a caravan? What do you think is the best? I mean, obviously, you've got a motorhome now, so you're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, we love our motorhome.
Yeah.
Look, what is the best? I think it depends on the individual, and where you want to go. Most people tow a caravan. That means they've got a four-wheel drive vehicle, so they can go four-wheel driving off road.
Okay, yeah.
And that's an advantage with a caravan. Look, I'll tell you a story about how I got my motorhome.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie and I were camping in Victoria. We were down there for nearly 3 months, and out of that 3 months, we had about 5 days of good weather. It rained, it was cold. I mean, we love travelling in winter, and we don't particularly like the heat. We pulled up at Meredith Park near Colac in Victoria. It was pouring down rain. Maggie jumped in the caravan. I got out and unhitched, put the legs down and settled it all up. I went in the caravan, and Maggie looked at me and she said, you can't keep doing this at your age. I was cold, I was wet.
Yeah.
And that basically started us on, well, what other options are there?
Yeah.
Now we've got the motorhome. I can find a reasonably level patch of ground. I pull the handbrake on, I turn the ignition key off, I pull a lever and swivel my seat around.
Mhm.
I take 2 steps into the motorhome, open the cupboard, pull the kettle out, and I can make a cup of tea.
Aha. Now, you don't need stabilisers when you have a motorhome. Is that right?
Not necessarily. Some people do have them.
Okay.
We don't on ours because it's one of the smaller motorhomes, but a lot of people do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I suppose
But for
the
us,
bigger they are. Yeah.
we've never found it a problem. There's, you get a little bit of movement from the suspension of the vehicle, but that's no biggie.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get much pushback when you were towing your van from other motorists?
No, not really.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I suppose you're right. It really is. My brother-in-law has been towing a van for quite a lot of years, and
Yep.
and I think last time I saw him, I think I don't think he'd ever admit it, but I think maybe things are starting to shift your way, into a motorhome. And I think you're right. Age shall not weary them, but I think it does in a way. Especially when you do have to get out there in the weather. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
Now I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Oh, well, that's good. You should be an interviewer like me. So what sort of things do you think you should consider? Motorhome or caravan? Not the choice so much, but if you're going to purchase one or the other, what do you got to think about?
Where you're going to go, I think.
Uh-huh.
And what facilities are going to be available, whether you're going to spend most of your time in caravan parks or whether you're going to spend most of your time free camping.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're free camping, you need a fully self-contained motorhome with an ensuite, plenty of fresh water, a grey water tank to catch your grey water.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily need that in a caravan park because all your facilities are there.
Well, that's true, but you don't get a lot of solitude in the caravan park, though, do you?
In winter, you do. I've been in some caravan parks in Victoria. I've been the only one there. Beautiful.
Wow. Well, I mean that goes against what I thought. I thought that the old grey nomad thing had gone quite crazy, so that no matter where you went in wintertime these days, there'd be a lot of people.
But we passed most of them heading north when we're going south. Most of them go to the tropics for the winter.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, you're very clever, aren't you? You're going south.
Yeah, we get to wave to a lot of them.
Oh, dear. Now, what's your best tip when you're traveling?
Never pass. We do a lot of free camping.
Yep.
So my best tip for people who free camp is never pass a water tap where you can get water, and never pass a dump point where you've got to empty your toilet.
Ah, right. Now, I'll
two
just
big
quickly,
tips.
Now, what's the advantages and disadvantages of those little chemical toilets?
Well, we use ours all the time. I don't know that the disadvantage is finding a dump point to empty them, but I don't know if you're aware that the CMCA have installed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dump points across the country.
All right.
And you're not going all that far before you find one.
Right.
Even across the Nullarbor, there are dump points for people to use.
Yep.
Mm.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Derek. That's been very informative because I can tell you I'm about to get involved in using a chemical toilet myself, so I'm very happy to hear what you just said about that.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good. They're definitely good.
All right, Derek, thanks very much. I'm going to speak to you very soon, and we'll continue this lovely conversation about life on the road in a van or a motorhome. Thanks again, Derek.
Thanks, John.
On the Pulse, on the Shed Wireless. I'm sure we've all heard of Oz Harvest and the wonderful work they do in food rescue and food relief. But have you heard of their Nest program? Stuart is here with Christine to tell us all about it.
Thanks, JPY, and g'day everyone. I'm Stuart Torrance, Shed Development Coordinator, Wellbeing and Health, and this is On the Pulse, where we discuss anything and everything about health and wellbeing. As I've said many times before, if you've ever taken time to read any of the health peak body information about preventative strategies, the information that you will be brought to is these two activities, diet and exercise. Well, we've been banging on about exercise and physical activity a lot lately. When it comes to diet, I'm all well balanced. I'm all for a well balanced, nutritious meal. But when it comes to the grocery store, it seems everything healthy seems to be exorbitantly priced. To address the issue of a balanced, healthy diet, ticket shock, our guest today is Christine Batey from Oz Harvest. Welcome to On the Pulse, Christina.
Thanks for having me, Stuart, and thanks for having me, everyone out there at MedShed Land.
Christina, there is a perceived disparity between healthy diet and the cost of healthy food. And I know whilst Oz Harvest is a food rescue and distribution organisation, I know you do so much more than that. Can you fill us in?
Sure. Yes. Well, I know that the cost of living is a concern for everybody right now. What we do at Oz Harvest is, yes, we do food rescue, and that is our main core business, you could say. But we also fight food waste and fight food insecurity with education programs, and that's where I come into it. So we do some innovative food strategies with our food education. I run what is called the NEST program. It's our Nutrition Education Skills Training program. It also stands for Nice, Easy, Simple Tips. So it's teaching people about some simple cooking skills and nutrition education in a way that's easy for everybody to understand, easy for everyone to take home and use, easy for everyone to take home and share with their families.
So you're taking food rescue to the next level. I feel sometimes I've been complacent with eating better food because I've been cutting corners. It's so easy just to open the freezer and get a microwave ready meal. But we've lost the ability to cook from scratch sometimes, I feel. I feel we should really go back to basics. And what you're trying to say, I think, Christina, is that it's not that hard to make a healthy meal. All you need, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard you say there's 1,000,001 ways to cook an egg.
That's true. There is 1,000,001 ways to cook an egg. And yes, I think sometimes we do forget that there are ways out there that we can put together a simple, quick, healthy, tasty meal from scratch. And sometimes, as you say, Stuart, it is easy to just reach into the freezer and grab something from out of there, which can be sometimes a good thing, and sometimes it can be a less than good thing. Some of those meals are a little bit high in some of those nutrients we probably don't want to be looking at. So our salt, saturated fat, and low in our vitamins, minerals, essential protein. So trying to concentrate on getting most of our foods from meals that we cook from scratch is usually the best way to go. And that's where I come in. I can help you do that, and I can help our shed members do that.
Sensational. Christina, my mind automatically, when you were talking about food from the freezer, went to ice cream. I don't know why. But I'm sure it's not high on the food pyramid. Um, sometimes I like to think of myself as a cook, and I get into the kitchen and I go, I like this and I like that, and I'll put that in the pot and I'll put that in the pot. And I seem to be, it's almost once around the kitchen and everything goes in. And what I'm left with is a gluggy mess. Any tips?
Yeah, Stuart. The tips would be to come and do a nest program first of all with me.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with experimenting in the kitchen. But sometimes if you don't have that basic guidance, it can turn into a bit of a mess. So it's knowing when to start and knowing when to stop. And I think some of those basic skills I can definitely help out with for sure, Stuart.
So you mean to say I don't have to go to TAFE or night school to learn to cook? I can just come and attend a niche program. How do I learn about niche programs? Where are they held? Can I organise one for myself for my shed? Tell me a bit more about that.
100%. So they're held wherever you are. So I come to you as your program facilitator. I'm an accredited practicing dietitian and I also love to cook. And so I will come, I will bring all the equipment we need, I will bring all the ingredients we need. Pretty much all we need to set up a nest program is a bit of space to fit everyone, maybe a table and chair or two, some electricity and some running water, and the rest I can take care of. I can work it from there.
So as long as the workshop's clean,
Mhm.
we could do it on the workbenches.
Possibly, yeah. If we clean it up enough, get rid of all the sawdust. Yes.
That man glitter, the stuff we prize so much. So this is something a shed could organise for their members, because what strikes me is we often, I suppose, overlook the members whose partner that used to do all this for them might no longer be on the scene, and cooking for one isn't. It seems to be quite difficult when you've always been cooking for 3, 4. To downsize that portion size,
Mhm.
and I suppose from the niche program you're going to help us to sort of do that.
That's right, Stuart. And what I can also do is teach how to store food so that you've got food frozen, ready to go. So when you do reach for those ready meals, they're actually cooked from scratch from something you've done before rather than something you've bought in the supermarket. So it's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, it's also going to save you the effort of having to cook every night. So those sorts of things. It's also a nice social occasion. Everyone loves to get together over food. So getting together with your mates, which a lot of the men's shed do, it's just a different maybe activity to try and do, and something that'll teach you some new skills in the way.
I think once you've been through and taught a shed, maybe one session or so, they could make this a regular monthly get together where they all cook up a storm. And we're all used to the men's shed barbecue and the
Mhm.
old sausage sizzle,
Yep.
but let's get together and cook up a storm and have some good healthy eating in the shed. I think the blokes would really enjoy that. The
I
other
think
thing
that's
that
a great idea.
comes to mind is the Shed Grants program, where we're wonderfully supported by the Department of Health,
Mhm.
and they want to have healthy outcomes. I see this as really ticking the boxes. So what's the cost of running a niche program in a shed,
Right.
Christine?
So the cost is $3,300 plus
Mm,
GST, which is for a 6 week program. Each
yep.
program is 2.5 hours long, ideally. And within that program, you receive me, your skilled accrediting practicing dietitian,
Hmm.
and I would say pretty skilled cook. You get all your recipes, you get all your ingredients. And at the end of the program, you receive a little folder with a certificate to say you've completed the Nest program. You receive some resources, some learning resources, and you also receive a copy of our Nest Everyday Cookbook, which contains all the recipes that you used over the course of the 6-week program to take home with you.
Sensational. Okay, so we've got 1,300 sheds across Australia, Christina.
Yes.
You can't go to all of them.
No.
Is there facilitators like you in every state?
There is, Stuart. So yes, we have Nest program coordinators across Australia.
Sensational. Okay, so we also have the tyranny of distance. So we've got sheds out the back of Burke. You're here in Newcastle, and I would imagine that you look after Newcastle, the Central Coast. But what if I'm out the back of Burke? How are we going to cope with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd love for me to be able to count that as travel, business travel, but unfortunately, Oz Harvest does not have the funds to do that. But what we may be able to do is an online program, so I might be able to come online and you guys cook along while I supervise from the comfort of wherever I am in Newcastle, and you'll see my beautiful big face on television while you cook.
Sensation. Okay, so we could set up a remote education. So what the guys would have to do is maybe look at buying some what do you call them? Them heated frying pans.
And electric fry pans, yes.
An electric fry pan. What else? Other equipment are they going to have to put in their grant application?
Yep. So probably the two main pieces of electrical equipment I use are an electric fry pan and a rice cooker. Just invested in one for my kit, and it is very useful for cooking many things, not just rice. So they would be the two major electrical appliances we use. We don't necessarily need to have an oven. For most of our recipes, we can convert them and use them without an oven. That's the beauty of our Nest program. It's very modular. It's very adaptable to whatever your situation may be. And just some other little bits and pieces are probably some spoons or, things to push the food around, a couple of bowls,
Spatulas and the like.
Spatulas and things like that, exactly right. Couple of bowls, a couple of chopping boards, a knife or two, and then Bob's your uncle.
Okay, sorry about that, Christine. My phone's gone off. I forgot to switch it on silent. I knew I'd do something. Okay, so Christina, in that regard, that sounds fabulous. How do sheds get in touch with you in regards to if they want to set this up, if they want to have a conversation about how it would operate, if they want to have a conversation if they're out of area? Who do they contact? Do they go onto the Oz Harvest website, or do they contact you directly?
Yeah, so the best way to get onto that would be the Oz Harvest website. I'm a busy lady, so sometimes I don't answer my phone very promptly. So Oz Harvest website is the best way to go. It's simply ozharvest.org, or you can Google Oz Harvest. You go to the education section and you look for Nest, N-E-S for Sam, T for Tom, Nest.
Christina, it was wonderful having you on today. Thank you very much for all the information. I implore all the sheds to get together and have a discussion about having a big cook-up in the shed and enjoying one another's company while you make some sumptuous meal that Christina or some of the other facilitators throughout Oz Harvest would do. Christina, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Stuart, and thanks to all the everyone involved at the Men's Shed and JPY, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to On the Pulse. Back to you, JPY.
At our age, we've seen a few changes in technology over the years, but sometimes all this new stuff and having to learn how to do something a new way gets a bit much, doesn't it? Well, our resident handyman, Rip Woodchip, is going to tell us how he deals with it.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Nailed it with Rip Woodchip.
G'day, Shadows, Rip Woodchip here. How y'all going today? I've just got back from picking up my new phone and wrestling trying to get all the information from the old one to the new bloody one. And between the tiny screen, me big fat fingers and declining eyesight, it's a bit of a battle. I don't even know what was wrong with the last one, but the kids insisted I update. Easy for them to say, and do. Kids are practically born with a device in their hands nowadays and can use it like another appendage too. I'll go to text me grandkids a message and practically get a reply before I hit send. Bloody technology, eh? It can be your best friend or your worst enemy. But it's a bit of a necessary bloody evil, I suppose. I don't know how it happened, but even an old codger like me can't seem to get by without it nowadays. And I won't even leave home without my phone in my hand. It's more important than me wallet and me keys. I mean, it's not only me phone, it's me money, me navigation system, and me book of useless information, and me communication lifeline. But, like many things, we mock and fear what we don't understand. And if you just get over it and try and embrace it, or at least not fight it as much, you usually find that technology is not as bad as you might have thought, and that there's actually benefits, and it can even make your life a little easier. I admit, I resisted for a while. I mean, the whole computer technology bit. Well, at least as long as I could anyways. I was a bit of a technophobe for a long time. I reckon that technology was something I could probably do without. But it seems like the whole world's pushing us to do everything online, and you can't seem to do squat without it. And so I figured I better get on board this technology train now before I got left at isolation station. And I was also getting sick of having to ring the kids every time I wanted to pay a bill or even just find a phone number. I think the kids were getting a bit jack of it too. But I wasn't really starting from scratch. I mean, I wasn't a complete technophobe. I wasn't completely illiterated. I fumbled through teaching myself the basics, and the kids and the grandkids showed me some bits and pieces. I had a computer, which was a good start, and I could send an email and play a bit of solitaire. But I finally bit the bullet and signed up for one of them tech-savvy seniors courses. Turns out it was one of the best things I ever did. I have to admit, at first it was a little bit overwhelming, but in true Rip Woodchip style, I persisted. I mean, the first time I used a hammer, I ended up with a couple of black fingernails, so how hard could a keyboard hurt me? Like everything, it's just patience. A lot of patience. And some good old-fashioned persistence. And you start to get the knack of it. You feel better too being in a room with a whole bunch of other people that are just as confused and frustrated as you. And I have to admit, by the end of it, I was a bit of a go-to man for some of the others. But as much of a technophobe I was back then, I'm a bit of an advocate for it now. I mean, it still frustrates the crapper out of me at times, but I probably communicate and see more of the kids and the grandkids than I ever did, with texting and photos and video. I haven't had to go inside a bank for 6 months. I can turn the bedroom lights on without having to leave me nice warm bed, and I've found and bought every part of the old FJ Holden I'm doing up. And I'm playing in a chess tournament and chatting with a fella in Yemen. I'm 2-1 up, by the way. So now I'm even giving lessons to blokes down at the shed too. So what I'm saying, fellas, we can fight technology all we want, but it ain't going nowhere. And, like me, if you're willing to have a crack, you just might surprise yourself at how much you can get out of it. Now, I've got to go Google transferring phone data for dummies. I'll catch you next time, fellas. See ya!
Well, what a journey we've been on today. Remember to share the podcast with your shedding mates, give them a hand to follow along online, or send them to www.menshed.org/The Shed Wireless, or our Facebook page where you can listen on YouTube. Until next time, folks, for the love of shedding. Adios.
It don't matter if you work with wood or fabricating metal is the thing you understood. Whatever is your game, everyone's the same. Yeah, we can do it all at shed. Short, fat, tall, skinny, hairy ball. In the shed it's welcome one and all. Share the skills you know, we're all having a go. There's a helping hand in the men's shed. Something for you at the men's shed.